Things are going crazy, fellas. Russian President Vladimir Putin has gone to North Korea and Vietnam. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day so far. World War III has not started yet. I think we still have some time to enjoy ourselves. Take it very seriously. I'm not even playing. We're going to dive into this very quickly. I salute you from all over the place. Dumelang, Sawbonani, Thank you very much for choosing us. Okay, we're going to dive into this very quickly. So the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, has traveled to Vietnam for a diplomatic trip. And America is not very happy about that. In fact, they are not happy about that. The representative of the United States of America in Hanoi said, no country should give Putin a platform to promote his war of aggression and otherwise allow him to normalize his atrocities. This is the spokesperson of the United States Embassy in Hanoi. He says, if he is able to travel freely, he could normalize Russia's blatant violation of international law. So, Vladimir Putin, obviously, has been put in a corner, sort of a corner right now, not really a corner, but with America recently allowing Ukraine to use long-range weapons to hit targets in Russia. Clearly, Russia has to do something about it. And I think people shouldn't be surprised to see Russia try to do such move to free itself, to give itself some leverage. So Americans are very angry. Why is Vietnam giving you an opportunity? Why is Vietnam allowing Vladimir Putin to come and speak? Why would you give him a platform to promote his war of aggression against Ukraine? Unacceptable. So Vietnam has got a very good relationship with the United States of America for now, diplomatic and also economic. Because for the longest time, the United States of America used China for cheap production. So cheap labor. Basically, most of the things that are produced in America are actually produced in China. Did you know that? Some of your iPhone's components are produced in China. Oh yeah, I know. And it's just crazy because when people get things from actually China, they go like, oh, this is Hong Kong, this is Chinese. Like, in a very negative connotation. Forgetting that most your computers, most your TVs that supposedly come from America are built in China. Because the labor in China is very cheap for companies. And most of these companies want to make a maximum profit and very little for the workers. So they use Chinese. Instead of using Americans to build your iPhone, which will cost them much more money because the average American expects a good salary, they rather use the same tools but with the Chinese. They will ask the Chinese to build your iPhone, your computers, your fridge, your refrigerators at a very cheap price. So Americans benefited for the longest time from cheap labor in China for their production. Not knowing that in the future, China will utilize that to actually build themselves as a massive industrial country. China has now become a very big competitor to the United States of America. And America sees that. It's a major threat to them. And because China has ranged themselves next to Russia with this war, America feels bad about it. So they need a new partner, a replacement for China. They chose Vietnam. Because Vietnam is an emerging country. It's quite free. They have a very similar mentality a little bit with the Western nations. Actually, they're just okay. And also because Vietnam doesn't have the greatest relationship with China, America chose to use Vietnam. Divide to conquer. It's the same strategy. Now, Vietnam and America has a long history. For those of you who don't know, they went to war for 20 years. Since 1955 to 1975. A brutal war happened in Vietnam. You suddenly ask yourself, how come this is possible? Please be patient. We're going to talk about North Korea just now. You're suddenly asking yourself, how did this war come about? In fact, Vietnam used to be one country. The North was controlled by the communists. The South was controlled by capitalists. The capitalists were working with the Western nations. But it came a time where the Northern people were so strong they wanted to reunite their country after World War II. America didn't like that because the majority were communist. So America says, if we allow this to happen, the Southern Vietnamese is going to be communist as well. So let's go to war. There are many theories about this. Some people say America maliciously created a scenario saying that Vietnamese attacked their ships so they can justify the war. But we're not there right now. They went to war for 20 years. And trust me, Vietnamese are not easy to beat. After 20 years, Americans were defeated. They decided to go back to their country.
4 years and 2 months ago, when I first came into this office as president, By far the most difficult problem confronting the nation was the seemingly endless war in Vietnam. 550,000 Americans were in Vietnam. As many as 300 a week were being killed in action. Hundreds were held as prisoners of war in North Vietnam. And no progress was being made at the peace negotiations. I immediately initiated a program to end the war and win an honorable peace. 11 times over the past 4 years, I have reported to the nation from this room on the progress we have made toward that goal. And tonight, the day we have all worked and prayed for has finally come. For the first time in 12 years, no American military forces are in Vietnam. All of our American POWs are on their way home.
And at that specific time, Vietnam received a lot of help coming from communist countries such as China and Russia, or the Soviet Union if you prefer. The Vietnamese have not forgotten the help they received from the Soviet Union or the Russians. They know America is not necessarily a very faithful friend. They may change today or tomorrow, because they've done it in the past with many other countries. But they know for sure that they can trust Russia because they have been friends for the longest time. Either way, Vietnam can play what we call bamboo diplomacy. Bamboo diplomacy is basically playing with both parties. Be nice with Americans to profit from investments, make money, and be nice with Russians when it comes to loyalty and armament. But certainly the future will tell us which way things go out. The Russian president has gone to North Korea very clearly because he needs to create relationship at this very difficult time for Russia. Let me remind you here, after Joe Biden authorized the Ukrainians to hit targets within Russian territory, Moscow promised to also give weapons to whoever they choose to give to.
We think that if someone thinks it is possible to supply such weapons to a combat zone to strike at our territory and create problems for us, why do we not have the right to supply our weapons of the same class to those regions of the world where there will be strikes on the sensitive facilities of those countries that are doing this against Russia?
Now, we know that North Korea is not the biggest friend of America. How do both parties profit from this trip? Russia will certainly get ammunition that it desperately needs right now from North Korea because they use the same system, and North Korea will probably get technology from Russia. North Korea needs long-range missile technology. They've been working very hard to try to acquire it, and it's been very difficult scientifically because of the component that's missing. So Russia will make it easy for them to acquire the atomic bomb at a very long range. North Korea has been very frantic in terms of their dislike of America. They're like a rattlesnake. You really don't know where they're going to hit. So if there's a country that poses a real threat to the security of the United States of America, it's North Korea. Now, giving North Korea missiles capable of hitting America, that's very dangerous to the United States of America. Now, the question here is, will Putin really give North Korea this technology? That's a big question. Let's see. Russian president said that Moscow highly appreciates South Korea's decision to not directly deliver weapons to the conflict zone with Ukraine. Meaning, we praise South Korea because they're not getting involved with Ukraine. They're not sending any weapons to arm Ukrainians. Was that a strategic move from South Korea? Most likely. Why? Because North Korea is a danger to South Korea. Sending weapons to Ukraine by South Korea would also mean Russia could supply North Korea with the necessary weapons to destroy South Korea. So South Korea has played very safely to avoid being the enemy of Russia. Is this trip by Putin just a show of force or a threat for America and other countries? Or will he really provide the necessary technology to North Korea? Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. God bless.